Hey, what up, guys? This is Ryan with Brainstorm. So the additive inverse property basically states this, that if you have any number, the additive inverse, like, so let's say, you have a number like 12. The additive inverse is any number that you would add to this that would somehow add to 0, right? So in other words, plus what guy over here equals 0. And whatever that number is the additive inverse to 12. And so quickly you'll probably get the hang of this and be like, wait a minute, isn't just the opposite sign the additive inverse? Which it is. 12 plus negative 12 would be 0. So the additive inverse of 12 is negative 12. Okay, well what about, I don't know, the additive inverse of 6? And then you'll be like, well, that's definitely negative 6, right? And then what's the additive inverse of negative 3? Well, negative 3 plus what guy equals 0? Again, just the opposite sign, so 3. So the additive inverse of negative 3 is 3. Okay, what about the additive inverse of negative 10? I can do a million of these and you'll probably start to get them right immediately. The additive inverse of negative 10? 10, because him plus him would be 0, right? And don't be weirded out by fractions. The additive inverse of 2/3 would be negative 2/3, right? What's the additive inverse of, who knows? Negative 1/5? Well, that would just be 1/5. So that's what that is. And so your question should be like, Ryan, why am I even possibly listening to you right now? Like, why would you learn this, right? And this is kind of, they don't tell you this, but we're kind of leading up to algebra. So the reason you're learning this whole additive inverse property is that when you get to algebra, you're going to have like letters and numbers mixed, and you're going to be solving for letters, which are known as variables. And so this is what it might look like. All right, and this is an algebraic equation, and there's a letter here, and they're like, this is an unknown, and they're like, well, solve for x, or get x alone. And you would use the additive inverse property because you're like, well, x is not alone. X would be like x equals something. That should be x alone, my answer. This little dumb plus 5 is in the way. In order to get this little dumb plus 5 out of the way, you would do the additive inverse to both sides. What's the additive inverse to positive 5? Minus 5. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Look, when you add these down, they're gone. So that would be x equals, and then when you add those down, 10 plus negative 5, or 10 minus 5 would just be 5. So the answer is x is 5. So it's very useful. Additive inverse is very useful in algebra. And we're not there yet. Don't get carried away. But that's why you're even learning the additive inverse. So if I gave you a quiz and said, what is the additive inverse of negative 9? You'd be like, 9? It's very easy to find the additive inverse. It's just the opposite sign. All right. Good luck, you guys.